Greetings all. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce Emory Douglas, Minister of Culture Affairs for the Black Panther Party. Emory Douglas was born May 24, 1943 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He has been a resident of the San Francisco, California Bay Area since 1951. Douglas attended City College of San Francisco, where he majored in commercial art. He was politically involved as revolutionary artist and did Minister of Culture for the Black Panther Party from February 1967 until the early 1980s. Douglas' art and design concepts were always seen on the front and back pages of the Black Panther newspaper, reflecting the politics of the Black Panther Party and concerns of the community.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here and appreciate that Erica, my comrade, friend, has invited me to give a presentation today here at the school at Merritt College, the home of the Black Panther Party. What I would like to start off with is first, there's a short film clip that I would like to show you to kind of give some introduction. It was a slight film that was done in New York, where I collaborated with some young people in Harlem between Groundswell, a mural group, and the new museum and the Studio Museum of Harlem. Collaborated together with these young folks to do this mural up in Harlem, and they got a lot of play on the news. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to stay there because I had to leave to go to New Zealand, but it's a short clip. I'm not sure who's running the computer, but I would like to show the short clip if I could.
On this busy block in East Harlem, a freshly painted mural reflects the community. And as area residents and business owners walk by, they take the time to reflect on it.
It brings a light and a different glow to the community.
Everybody enjoying it. I think it's nice. It's to the heart.
From the heart of these teens who worked all summer long on the mural and came out Thursday for the dedication ceremony. It's called What We Want, What We Believe, and it's inspired by the work of artist and former Black Panther Emory Douglas. Douglas worked with the kids to design and create this large-scale artwork here on the corner of 122nd Street and 3rd Avenue.
I live in Brooklyn, but it feels good to go somewhere else and leave my mark there to let them know that I actually care about the community and want to help out.
It's pretty difficult to get down to details and stuff. We had to try painting over and over again, because sometimes it would we would end up mixing the wrong colors.
But in the end, they got it right.
It's a great experience to be able to impact a community like this, to put something on the wall.
The new museum, together with the Studio Museum in Harlem and Groundswell, a not-for-profit organization engaged in fostering public art, organized the project. In creating the design for the mural, which focuses on family, education, and social justice, the kids learned about the role the Black Panther Party had in the civil rights movement. They also viewed and discussed Douglas's socially conscious work.
They needed to understand not just how to take a piece of art and put it up there that somebody else made, but how to look at a piece of art, understand what issues it was addressing,
and learn what issues matter today.
We would also come into the community and they would actually interview residents and shop owners and ask people what are the contemporary issues that they felt were relevant today.
The original design of the mural wasn't set in stone. It evolved with neighborhood feedback.
As we were working on it and people started to connect with some of the images that were on the wall, we had some suggestions, and we made slight changes, whether it was hairstyles or garment, color choices. We felt it was important because at the end of the day, the mural is really for the community.
The mural is permanent. However, an exhibit at the new museum looking at the life and work of Emory Douglas runs through October 18th. In Harlem, Shazia Khan, New York 1.
I just wanted to show you that, to give you an idea of how the art and the spirit of the art has taken on a life of its own and transcended the Black Panther Party and the African American community. And so I will start off because of limited time. I will cut things. I won't talk as much as long in detail on many of the artworks, which have many stories behind them. But I will, of course, I'm not sure what time I have right now. But actually, this is the most recent interpretation of the Panther. But so what I'm going to give you is a historical perspective of where, and put it in context, where the Panther came from. The symbol of the Panther comes from the South in 1965, during that period, during the Civil Rights Movement, when you had when you had large volume of young people going to the South to register, African American elders and others who had never voted before in their lives. And the political machinery in Lowndes County, Alabama, was controlled by the racists, the Klan, the Minutemen, or whatever you want to call them, the extremists. And they had this rooster icon that they would use because you had whites who were illiterate, who couldn't read or write, but they wanted them to know who to vote for, and they were racist. And so they had this icon that they were able to get on the ballot, and that was the rooster. So that opened it up for blacks to do the same thing. And they seen these high school mascots, sports teams, like all these animals, and the one that they chose was the Panther. So the symbol comes from the South during the Civil Rights Movement, when they used the Panther as the symbol for those who went to vote. This is the image that you would see back then. That was pre-Black Panther, early 1966 in Lowndes County, Alabama. And as you see, it says, vote November 8th, pull the lever for the Black Panther, and go home. So this was the idea of where the symbolism of the Black Panther comes from the South. Put it in the context. But also, I wanted to put in context the ideal of self-defense. A lot of people think that was just the Black Panther Party coming up with guns and the whole bit, but self-defense has always been a part of protecting the family and the house and the community, particularly in the South during the Civil Rights Movement, when you used to have the raids on the Klan and all the other things. This was Mabel Williams and Robert Williams, husband and wife, who lived in Monroe, North Carolina. They got in conflict with the racists down there. Eventually, they had to leave the country, and he went to China. He went to Cuba. And then from Cuba, he went to, I believe, to China, and he was also in Africa, in Tanzania. And we used to see him as a young man sitting up in China with Mao Zedong on the front of the Peking Review. So this was my first introduction to international connections, and to see that the Chinese were in solidarity with the African Americans in this country was a part of inspiration. So when I got into the Black Panther Party, we got to reading the Red Book and all those things. I already had a foundation from seeing Robert Williams, this black man who was welcome in China and stayed there for many years before he came back to the United States. When he came back to the United States, he went to Detroit. He was not allowed to go back to Carolina for many years, and they refused to extradite him back from Detroit to Carolina until they dismissed the charges. In the early, this is one of the earlier drawings. This was little Bobby Hud. He was the very first member that Huey Newton and Bobby Steele brought into the party. He was 15 and a half, 16 years of age. They knew him pre-Black Panther Party. They mentored him. Little Bobby, they had to get permission from little Bobby's mother for him to join the Black Panther Party during that time, because he was just going on 16 years of age. He was on April 6, 1968, 2 days after Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. Little Bobby, who was murdered in Oakland, California, at the Little Bobby Hutton Park, used to be known as DeFermi Park in West Oakland by the Oakland police. Here again is another one. This is the time when Huey Newton was exonerated for the murder of the Oakland policeman, Fry, which is one of the first policemen that Huey and Bobby had asked me to put the badge number on this pig drawing, early pig drawing that I did, that was harassing people in the community. It just so happens that the badge number we're going to put on there, the first number was Fry. And when we did that same weekend or weekend after that, Huey was out patrolling the community. He got a Fry, came down on him and another Panther. There was the shootout, the police was killed, one was wounded, Fry was killed, one was wounded. And after several years of going back and forth to court and trial, Huey was exonerated. But the night of the verdict came in, we were concerned about the office and the fact that police would be uptight behind the verdict. And so we got everybody out the office that day. That evening they came by, the Oakland police, and shut up the office. And they said, well, the next day you had Chief Gaines, who was then the police chief of Oakland, said that, well, they were just frustrated, but they were letting off a little heat because of the verdict. But they weren't fired from the police department. I believe they were suspended. This is the illustration that I did connected to that. It says, we'll fire only those who shoot up property and miss killing the niggers. Yes, sir. And it says, what is a pig? A low-natured beast that has no regard for law, justice, or the right of people. A creature that bites the hand that feeds it. A foul, depraved juicer, usually found masquerading as the victim of an unprovoked attack. Here again is another one, put some stuff in context. When you begin to, when I explain this, you maybe, and read this executive mandate number 3, you will get a clear picture of what the attacks and how they began to accelerate on the Black Panther Party. One evening, I had came back to house with Elder Cleaver and Kathleen Cleaver. We had been politicking late evening. The police came to the door in San Francisco. Elders asked, who is it? They said, the San Francisco police. He said, do you have a search warrant? He said, no. He said, well, you're gonna have to kick the door in. Because if they had a search warrant, it was legal. We had no problem, they could come in. We had nothing to hide. But if they didn't have a search warrant, we just weren't gonna let them come into our houses. So they proceeded to kick the door in, and I kind of did an interpretation of that incident. And what they were looking for were guns, because Elder Cleaver was they were looking for illegal guns, because Elder Cleaver was on parole. But because his wife was not, and they had been getting threats on their lives. So they had talked to the attorney and found out it was okay for Kathleen to buy a gun and have it in her possession. And therefore, what they were hoping to do was come in and kick in the door and find illegal guns. They found no illegal guns. So this was just my interpretation of that particular image. It says, what are we looking for? You got the pigs with the question mark. You got the other little pig looking under the rug. You got the other one looking with a snort in the toilet. Where are the guns? So this is just interpretation of that scene. And what happened is that this executive mandate number 3 referred to a situation because it was a while later in Berkeley, California, they did the same thing. So it was said at that time, well, we need to put out a position paper, make it clear in relationship that we would no longer allow that to take place. So in essence, we wrote executive mandate number 3, and it referenced the 1929 Al Capone gang who plotted to kill the other gang across town. What they did is they dressed up like policemen and they went across town, but the other gang thought they were real policemen, which they weren't. And then they came and they slaughtered them. So we say, we don't know if you are a real policeman or not, if you ain't got no search warrant. So we from here on in, we will not allow you to come into our houses and kicking our doors, and we would defend ourselves. So thereafter, you begin to have many shootouts across the country between the Black Panther Party and the police. A lot of it then became infiltrated with agent provocateurs who created these conditions for the situation that took place between the shootouts between the Black Panther Party and the police. A young man named Bobby Hud wrote this poem. I illustrated the illustration for it. It says, knock, knock, who's there? The pigs. You got a warrant? Don't need one. I'm coming in, bang, bang, oink, oink, off the pigs. See, these were the pig drawings. They were drawings that dealt with solidarity. They're drawings that dealt with international solidarity. All of these things, the social programs. This one here was Pigs Want War, Panther Cool. This was when Elder Cleaver was invited to UC Berkeley to teach by the student body at UC Berkeley. Then Ronald Reagan, who was the governor of the state of California, put pressure on the UC Board of Regents not to allow Elder Cleaver to teach at UC Berkeley. So this is why we call Ronald Reagan a pig. Speaking as the racist governor of California, I don't think Elder Cleaver should teach at UC. During the 1960s, 68, 67, 68, there were many rebellions and riots that took place within the United States. There was over 200 some rebellions that took place. You also had the war in Vietnam that was going on at the same time. So it was like, hell outside, hell inside, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And I spelled America with 3 Ks, America, A-M-E-R-I-K-K-K-A. I'm not the first to do it, but I thought it was relevant, and so I applied it to this particular illustration. Here's another one. This one is where we begin to use the word Babylon, biblical word, to coin what America was. It symbolized and represented. And as you can see, this is 1968. There was a lot of things that were taking place in the United States in 1968. You had New Haven, Connecticut, where Erica Huggins and Bobby Seale had been framed up for a murder of a black party member, which an agent provocateur had created, was eventually found guilty of, and Eric and Bobby were exonerated and found not guilty. You had Kent, Ohio, Ohio and Kent State University. You had 4 white students who were murdered by the National Guard for protesting against the war in Vietnam. You had Augusta, Georgia, Jackson, Mississippi, and on many other campuses in the South, you had black students who were armed rebellion on the campuses with the authorities and the National Guards during that time. You had the war in Vietnam, you had Cambodia, Laos, and Palestine. All of these were high, intense struggles going on during that particular period, and many, many more. You had 1968, you had John Carlos and Tommy Smith, who gave the Black Power sign at the Olympics in New Mexico in regards to the human rights violations, protests against the human rights violations against the African American community here in the United States. This is where their personal way of protesting. This is the image I did based on that, where it says it called the Olympics. You got them get on the ground, get ready to run the race. They run the race. They come to the winner's line. He stands up on the pole with the flag in his hand. And when it's over, a nigga is a nigga is a nigga. No matter what, no matter you're an athlete, a doctor, you profile. If you're black, you profile in this country. No matter what your status is, you will be profiled. Okay. This is showing solidarity, international solidarity with people's struggles around the world. This one says, get out of the ghetto, get out of Latin America, get out of Asia, get out of Africa, U.S. imperialism. Here's another interpretation of that one. Get out of the ghetto, get out of Africa, get out of Asia, get out of Latin America, U.S. imperialism. It's all the same. Local police, National Guard, Marines. All that come under Homeland Security now. It's all the same. They get their orders, marching orders from Homeland Security. They come in formation. They don't come into the community as no peace officers. This is then, good old American peace. This was Henry Kissinger, who was the Secretary of State. And that was Richard Nixon, who was then the President of the United States. And there's good old American peace, bombing the world, third world, Latin America, Africa, Asia. Same dynamics that you have going on today, you have going on 45, 50 years now, onward. Henry Kissinger is a war criminal. He can't travel around the world because they want to question him in different countries for war crimes. They want to charge him, so therefore he does not travel too far. He was the one behind Pinochet in Chile not being charged with all the human rights violations and the massacre of the people in Chile when their resistance for their basic human rights. This is during the war in Vietnam. I took this photograph that I found from Vietnam and did this sketch image with it. And it says, I took a quote from the Vietnamese. It says, in Vietnam, the Vietnamese say, if the enemy refuses to get out, annihilate him. This is showing you what war does, psychological impact of war. When people go to war and when they come back, what it does to the family, what it does to human beings. And it says U.S. government approved. Same thing then you have going on today. This one says, our fight is not in Vietnam, free the GIs. Our fight was not in Vietnam. The Vietnamese wasn't the cause of unemployment. The Vietnamese wasn't the cause of inferior education. The Vietnamese wasn't the cause of indecent housing. The Vietnamese wasn't beating and murdering us. The Vietnamese wasn't lynching us. Our fight was not in Vietnam. Our fight was right here in the U.S. That same paper, we showed solidarity with our Latino brothers and sisters. La Siete de la Raza was 7 Latino brothers who were charged with the murder of a San Francisco policeman. And they didn't have any way to plead their case. So in order to give them, we shared our paper with them. We gave them half of our paper, half with Black Panther. And we did that for 5 to 6 issues. Eventually, they were found exonerated of the killing of the San Francisco policeman. We even got them out to use our lawyer at that time named Charles Gary. Here you have the little U.S. imperialist, now a little rat, winding up his little toys, sending them off to war. A lot of them go to war and they find out that they're on the wrong side and that they should not, they're fighting the wrong enemy. They go back and they turn on the U.S. imperialists. And a lot of them came and joined the Black Panther Party. You had a lot of ex-Vietnam veterans who came and joined the Black Panther Party. Here you have the imperialist piglet nursing all those little piglets. And all those little countries on those little piglets were involved directly or indirectly in the colonization of other people in the third world during that time. This image first appeared, before it appeared in the Black Panther newspaper, was in Le Monde in the Algerian paper in Algeria in 1969 when we had Panthers who were in exile there during that period. Here is the Zionist puppet state of imperialism, U.S. imperialists and associates. And here you have the United States and the U.S. imperialists and France and all these countries propping up the Zionist ideology and philosophy that goes on today that's destroying the Palestinians and the world in conjunction with the United States today. This one was when you had the unmanned Sputnik space things going up during the early 60s. And I played off of that. And it says, whatever is good for the oppressor has got to be bad for us. Then you had the space pig ship up on the moon. And it says, hey, handle those slaves with care. We're going to need them for Mars, Pluto, and all those other planets. Then you have the slaves getting off the slave ship saying, I knew we should have stopped this shit before it got off the ground. Then you got the pig over here with the pick and the shovel saying, okay, goddammit, don't take 400 years this time. We want decent housing fit for the shelter of human beings. This is meant to be provocative, to bring the message home, where you got the mother trying to protect her little baby from the rodents, and she's shooting at the rat hole, but the rodents sneaking up around and attacking the baby. So it was meant to bring the message home in relationship to the indecent housing and the conditions. Save the children. This could be Africa, this could be Asia, this could be Latin America, this could be right here in America, right today. Again, save the children. All power to the people. Here's one that shows the many social programs that we had. We had the free medical clinics, we had the free food giveaways, we had the free, many programs that we had during that time were expressed in the artwork as well. We shall survive without a doubt. We had our own Panther school, Panther Cubs. These were Panther Cubs, youngsters who are now in their 40s, going on to be elders themselves. As you see in the collages in the glasses, shows testing for sickle cell anemia, a disease that predominantly impacted African Americans in this country. Until we brought it to the attention, very few people were aware of it. You even had Panthers who wrote a book who realized that he didn't find out that he had sickle cell anemia until he got tested in the Black Panther Party. He mentions that in his book that he wrote. Here again is played off the time when Erica and Bobby were incarcerated in New Haven, Connecticut. And this is a play on kind of two conditions, and with the word freedom, freedom in regards to them being free, but freedom also dealing with the word oppression, the conditions itself. I just want to testify. I'm not going to sit around any longer. I got freedom on my mind. All power to the people was an early, it should have been remixed and interpreted many times. Here again is the image, this fight sickle cell anemia. Matter of fact, this image, about 4 or 5 others, are part of an exhibit at the Center for Health down in Atlanta. They got an exhibit of some of our work now down there that's dealing with health. This one say, why should $54,000 on a helicopter when we need funds for seniors against a fearful environment? That was our program, our senior program called SAFE. And what we used to do is we used to take the seniors shopping to pick up their groceries, to go to the bank to get their cashier checks. Even at the Oakland Community School, which we had a cultural center in the evening, they would come in and they would put on fashion shows, but also we had a program where they would get together and determine on what produce and products they wanted to buy, and we would collect them and come back and pick them up and they would come in at the week's end and pick them up, and Erica was the coordinator and the principal at the school at the time. And what I'm saying here is that if they really want to deal with crime in Oakland, they would take that $54,000 instead of investing in buying a helicopter to patrol the community, talk about their preventing crime. They would take that money and invest it in young people to take seniors shopping, to take them to cash their checks, to escort them. If they really were serious about dealing with crime, they would invest in the young people who are committing the crimes. Hypertension kills. I'm hungry, I'm unemployed, I'm black. Here's one of my images that were remixed by Aspara, Organization of Solidarity with People from Africa, Asia, and Latin America. That was tricontinental posters in Cuba. Many of the images that I did during that time, they would sometimes pick them up, remix them, redesign them, and send them out into the third world in solidarity with people's struggles around the world. We had no problem with that because it was all about sharing and promoting ideals during that particular time. And this is one of the images. The next 2 images I will show you how they took the 2 images, mixed them together to create this poster. This is the one image there that you see. That's this image right here, turned around and they put a gun on it. Then this is the next image is this one here, where they cropped it, and that becomes that image right there. Flipped it around. Here's another one, and they did one of my images, where I did the image in black and white, which I'll show you on the next frame, but they took it and made it into a poster and sent it around the third world, said solidarity with the African American people, August 18, 1968, and it's interpreted in 4 different languages. This is the drawing done by Emory Douglas, Revolutionary artist Emory Douglas, was made into a poster by the Cuban people and sent throughout the third world, Africa, Asia, Latin America, and China, with a caption reading solidarity with the Afro-American struggle. Here again is another one, Afro-American solidarity with the oppressed people of the world. This one is I used to have a poem I used to put with it. We are soldiers in the army. We have to fight, although we have to die. We have to hold up the bloodstained banner. We have to hold it up until we die. My father, he was a soldier. He had in his hand the freedom plow. When he got old and couldn't fight anymore, he said, I'm going to get up and fight anyhow. My mother, she was a soldier. She had in her hand the freedom plow. When she got old and couldn't fight anymore, she said, I'm going to get up and fight anyhow. Now, we all are soldiers, and we have in our hand the freedom plow. When we get old and can't fight anymore, we got to get up and fight anyhow. It says trick or treat pigs, trick or treat. This was Halloween. Richard Nixon was the president. Spiro Agnew was the vice president. Both criminals running the government. Just like today, criminals running the government. Both had to leave the office in disgrace. I, Gerald Ford, am the 38th puppet of the United States. President of the United States ain't nothing but a puppet. Corporate America can control that. We see all that today, more than that. That's what controls it. Class brothers, Richard Nixon, Hitler. I wonder if Nixon is bugging us now. I wonder if Obama is spying on us now. We're talking about the real deal. See, you have to understand, there's two aspects you got to look at. You got to look at it from the standpoint, it was historical that he got elected. Our ancestors died, got slaughtered for the vote, and to be accepted as equals. But when it comes to the politics and the policies, you don't give no slack up to things that ain't running right. You just have to deal with it, you got to bring it out, you got to be a thorn in the side, you got to bring, whether people like it or not, you got to bring it to their attention. Bobby Seale, Huey Newton, political prisoners of U.S. fascism, two of the very first in the era of the Black Panther Party, in that era of political prisoners. You have over 27 Black Panther political prisoners who are still incarcerated over 30 to 40 years. You have over 120 or 40 political prisoners right here in the United States right today. Free the New York 21 and all political prisoners. These are Panthers in New York who were charged with over 100-something charges. All, in essence, were dismissed when they went to trial. They tried to set them up from blowing up parks to all kinds of insanity. But they were all found not guilty. Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mom, was a part of the New York chapter and was one of the New York 21. You have Romaine Chip Fitzgerald, Panther from Los Angeles, California, who is a political prisoner still today, been in almost over 40 years right at this time. This is when in the courtroom in Chicago, when Bobby Seale was chained and gagged during the Democratic Convention in 1969. He was brought back to Chicago to stand trial for inciting to riot. Never in the history of this country has there ever been anybody chained and gagged in the courtroom outside of Black Panthers. First it was Bobby Seale, then it was the Angola Three. They were also chained and gagged from New Orleans. What happened is in the courtroom, Bobby's lawyer had to have a minor operation. He wanted to represent himself. The judge said no. Every time they mentioned his name, he would object and stand up the whole bit. And instead of them taking him out of the courtroom, they chained him and gagged him in the courtroom. All they had to do is take him out, but they just chained him and gagged him, kicked him over in the chair in the courtroom. Never in history has it happened before. Hallelujah. The might and the power of the people is beginning to show. This is when the not guilty verdict came in, and Bobby and Erica were exonerated of the murder of the comrades in New Haven, Connecticut, and the agent provocateurs were found guilty of that crime. Here again is Patrice Lumumba, the great African leader who was assassinated in January 17, 1961. On January 17, 1969, you had Bunchy Carter and John Huggins, who were assassinated by agent provocateurs on the UCLA campus. Here you have Fred Hampton, leader of the Chicago, Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, and with Mark Clark, the other brother who was also shot through the door on that raid. Many of you probably know of it. If not, you can go on YouTube and see the murder of Fred Hampton and give you the whole story. He was a very powerful young man. He was able to organize and get the respect of the major gangs in the country during that time, where we could go into the projects and we could set up our social programs and no problems. It inspired them so much, some of the gangs, that they began to do some of the same things. When they began to do some of the things, then the government started sending out letters trying to play one against the other, saying that we would go out to kill them, and they were sending the same thing back to the Black Panther Party. So they were trying to create this dissension because of the dynamics and the power of coming together. And I remember when I was in New Zealand recently, at my last trip, and the Maori, which is the Pacific Islanders who are from the indigenous people from New Zealand, who seen some of my images that dealt with gang violence and what have you. And what they said is that you don't want to break up the gangs. What you want to try to do is change the mindset, because gangs are very powerful forces. But you want to try to work to change the mindset. But that's a long, hard process. That's a job within itself, because they are a powerful force in the world in essence. But so you want to keep that, but you want to change the mindset. George Jackson lived. George Jackson was the brother who went to jail as a petty criminal, came politicized and in San Quentin in the prisons, and became the field marshal in the Black Panther Party, and organized the first chapter inside the prisons at San Quentin City of the Black Panther Party. Boycott letters. Cesar Chavez, the great farm worker leader, was on his way marching to Sacramento to protest the chemicals and stuff that were being sprayed on the lettuces that were harming the farm workers and the fetuses of the women who were working in the valley. So they passed by our office on International Way, which was East 6th, East 14th at that time. And when they came by, we went out and heard the noise, and they explained where they were on their way to Sacramento, picking up farm workers along the way. And so they said they were very hungry. And so we worked it out to take them down to the school at lunch, and we marched from our office about 20 blocks to the school, where we fed about 50 farm workers for lunch, and then they continued on their way. And to show our solidarity, we did this paper to show our solidarity with that issue and boycott letters. Vote for Survival, free food program, free shoe programs. All of these programs we need today in relationship to pending revolution, pending change. Here's the issue. Here's one I looked at a book. This is International South Africa during the apartheid movement. This one deals with a book I had called House of Bondage. That was the only book I had at that particular time. I had a lot of photographs. So I wanted to tell the story about the spark that lit the prairie fire. So I took these matches. Africans were dealing with in South Africa in these matches. And as you see the matches become to stick out, then they spark, then it begins to intensify as the violence intensifies. Then the resistance turns into a flame. And out of that flame comes this freedom fire. And it says repression breeds resistance. Again, it's one dealing with the global divestment during that particular time. 25 minutes, okay, thank you. Investment at this time. And this says the city of Oakland is investing $16.6 million in racist South Africa. This is during the 1960s. I will go a little faster because it's getting to the point where we have to close it out in about 25 minutes. Here again, I was asked by Black Magazine to do an issue in 1989, a cover on the politics in Black America. And so I came up with this illustration highlighting the donkey and the elephant. And they both eating out the same trough. Ain't no difference. 1989. We talk, no different then, no different now. We always want to show our respect to the original caretakers of this land. We always showed our solidarity with the original caretakers of this land. We were in solidarity with the AIM, the American Indian Movement, all throughout. They were our comrades then, and we're still our comrades today. Now we're going into the new, more recent images that I've done since 2000 up until recently. This is the image I call it Malcolm X the warrior. I call that Malcolm X the father. This is one I did, a remix of an earlier image that I had done in that book you'll see, the art book, for Sonia Sanchez's first poetry book. I did the cover for that. I remixed it recently. This is called Peace. I play with the computer along with art. I do all my artwork, line drawings, and I might integrate it in and play with patterns in the computer. But I don't do anything that I can't paint. That's the one thing I won't do, because I like to paint. This was called, this is a book, it was based on Toni Morrison's book, Bluest Eye. There was a banned books, and they had a exhibit regarding books that had been censored or banned. And I took Toni Morrison's book, Bluest Eye, meaning the mind's eye, not eyes, but not bluest eye, but mind's eye. And in that story, it talks about a young lady who had been going through life because the mother thought she was ugly, wasn't going to be a beautiful child, and was going to have a hard time, which she did. She lived in this fantasy world. She was abused. She confronted with racism, all these things. On the last page, Toni Morrison said, well, you can be, go through life, you can be assassinated and not be assassinated by a bullet. That stuck with me. And so that's how I came up to interpret this, that this was assassination, psychological assassination, that we have going on not just then, but also today in relationship to the way women are treated in this society. This is dealing with reparations. As you see, red, white, and blue chains exhibit. This is called reparations again, with the word, using the word figures as the word. And this is a Dugan symbol here, saying you are a slave of him whose handcuffs you wear. Here again, just showing in 2000, I think it was not recently, about 3 or 4 years ago, we had a National Alumni Association meeting. Did this poster for that. As you can see, we had the free busing to prison program. We had a free ambulance service in Winston-Salem because Winston-Salem was the first chapter we had in the South. The racists wouldn't come in there with the ambulance. So they got certified as ambulance drivers. Then the community bought them an ambulance to service the community. You had the free breakfast program, the Oakland, the schools, the liberation schools, the Oakland Community Schools, the senior citizen programs. Yes, and the busing to prison program to take loved ones to visit those who were incarcerated. That was Peace Heals, War Kills. This is showing what war does to human beings, particularly in Africa and third world countries. You still got a lot of landmines and stuff that are thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who have lost limbs. The New World Order, the same old order. It's called the 3 M's. Man made money, money drove man mad. And this is about the U.S., the Zionist government of Israel, the G20. All of these are involved in the UN in many cases, are taking sides in relationship to against the human rights of people suffering in the world. And you got the International Monetary Fund, you got the World Bank, all of that. Z, which used to be named Blackwater, all those countries are involved in the madness that you see going on in the world today. This was an election. You have for sale, corporate owned was the jackass. You had sold, corporate owned was the elephant. They spent over $1 billion each to be elected, whether they spent $1 billion or $10 billion. Both spent over $1 billion to get elected. That don't come from no $25, $40 donations, contributions. This deals with the kill list. Obama signed the kill list, where they get together with 100 people every week, and they decide who they're going to assassinate in the world. This is fact. This is a bill that's been signed. That makes him a Nobel fraud. Because when he got the Nobel Prize, he gave a war speech, if you listen to it. He didn't talk about peace. He didn't talk about peace. So this is dealing with the issue, the reality, the dynamics, in particular, of being the President of the United States. Commander-in-Chief, Guantanamo. He has the authority to close Guantanamo right now. Right now. And you have doctors who are now doing the torturing of the people who are held hostage in Guantanamo right today. Yes? Pardon me? Yes. Yes. Well, he says he's the commander-in-chief. He says he's in charge. He got power. It's not like he ain't got no power. He has the right. He can close Guantanamo Bay. All he got to do is say close it. That's what he said when he got elected, that he was going to close Guantanamo Bay. He made these promises to the people. So you got people all over the world who are now very disappointed and frustrated with the policies of the President of the United States. People around the world do not trust this government. When you go outside, when you stop looking at CNN, and you go to other news outside this country, outside the world, you see what the reality is. I mean, when I travel, first thing I ask people is about the incarceration rate. The highest incarceration rate, indigenous people. Most employed, unemployed, indigenous people. All over the world, same issues, same concerns. Drone warfare. Intended collateral damage. Pakistan, Afghanistan, Africa. Those are the places where the drones are killing innocent people. So-called terrorists, they may kill so-called terrorists, but they kill 11 innocent people on top of that. Then some people may come in to help those who have been wounded. Then they bring another strike and kill them. There's been over 4,000 people in the world who've been killed by these drones, innocent people. They're creating terrorists because the people hate the U.S. government policy right today because of this. I was contemplating the word peace, being attacked. This is being bloody. You got nuclear war. You got chemical devastation to the planet. All of these things beginning to take place. Global warming. Arab, Muslim, Islam, U.S. government coded word for terrorists, hate, discrimination. Black male, U.S. government coded word for hate, discriminate. This is a mural I did in Campbelltown, Australia, with an Aboriginal brother named Richard Bell 2 years ago. These are the embroideries done by the Mayan Zapatista women in Chiapas of my work, reinterpreted with Mayan symbols in them. Recently, there's 7 images. Those are the ones that are at the Mission Cultural Center. There's another one of them. There's 2 of them. There's just 2 here, but there's here's when we was in Zapatista at a building that we were school building that we were supposed to paint. We had to sleep up on there in sleeping bags. This is open space up here because they're very poor, so you have everything with you: sleeping bags, paint, all those things, and the food, everything. And so we slept up there. Bats flying around over at night. You turn on the computer just to listen to some music. Bugs attack it, so you cut it off. You got to go to the outhouse down the hill, like in the country, and the whole bit. So that's the way. But they're proud people. This is it after this is when we begin to paint it. So I wanted to show you that. That was recent before. That was after, and this was in 2012. This is a store that I went to when we was there. That's myself. I'm standing with the other brother, Caleb, and they wanted us, the Zapatista store. They wanted us to paint that store, and this is when we painted the store this year. As you see it before. This is after. It was a collective of about 20 of us, artists together, and we took us about 5 days. And you got installations and all kinds of stuff and connected with it. This is my contribution because they want the 4 pillars of the store and the murals to be about solidarity, education, production, and culture. Okay. The twist symbol, this is when I did a collaboration in Maori, and I integrated these 2 symbols together into my artwork. It's about infinity coming together. Regardless if you go in different paths, you always come back together. And that's the image that I did. It says, overcoming oppression is our path to unity. And that represents basically that in Maori. This is the last year in Auckland, New Zealand. Here again is the 2 images together at the gallery in South Auckland, in the hood where they usually don't have a lot of shows at. I've seen on the news where on the computer where the flag had this flag always had to be at the top, the British, and to the left, and every other flag had to go behind. If it go low, everything's below it or to the right. So I said if and the theme was if we were to live here. So I put the Maori flag up top, made the British flag low, and turned it upside down. They loved it. It was the first time I was there. They plastered my images all over the streets in New Zealand when I was there. First time to do the 45-day teaching at the university. This is dealing with the immigration, toxic waste. I can't go into it, so because of time, I want you to get through. Free the land by any means necessary. Health is wealth. I like this saying, yes, non-toxic. This was with the Solidarity Haiti Committee. They used the image on the front recently, and this is dealing with the water cholera in Haiti recently, where you got over 6,000 to 8,000 Haitians have died because of the water, and the UN not living up to its responsibility for that happening. Mama said HIV/AIDS is an act of genocide in Africa, and it's an epidemic in our community. Mama's love, Papa's love, youngsters down the street, gang banging, talking bullets, percentage small, calling it crazy. How about? I call that mental bondage. Endangered species. Don't realize when they get into prison, what they're getting into is modern day slavery. And don't get right until they start getting into the system. It's about profit, making money, privatization of prisons. Much as things may change, some things stay the same. Why do they get to brutalize and kill us and we get to blame? This is based on Oscar Grant and the murder of Oscar Grant. Police Terror USA. This is Hallelujah, Justice. Freedom, Mumia Abu Jamal, political prisoner. Eddie Conway, another Panther. Baltimore, Maryland, 41 years, supposed to be out. Angola 3, which one Panther, Angola 3 just passed away after he got out. Trying to get the last one out. Robert King been out 5 years. Here's the front page of one of the film series that we do every year now in Harlem to raise money for political prisoners, where all the money goes to political prisoners. This is a more recent post I did in support of our comrades, Political Prisoners USA, freedom fighters, fighters for peace, justice, freedom, particularly the struggle against recognized cruel and oppressive conditions, government inhumane policies and actions. Free Political Prisoners USA, all power to the people. Thank you. I'm sorry I kept holding the mic down. Forgot about it.
So if you have questions for Emory, could you stand and I'll keep order of who's what, and please just ask your question without any commentary and then Emory can answer. Okay, you have your hand up? You have to stand.
I was curious as to why you picked the pig to correlate with the police.
She's asking why did you, I'm doing this for everybody. Why was the pig chosen as a symbol of the police?
Well, Huey Newton and Bobby Seale called the pig swine and what have you, low-natured beast that wallows in the filth and in this country. In other cultures, the pig has other meanings because it's a source of survival food. But in here, it's just something that wallows in the dirt, it's filth, it has no respect, nothing. So that's the essence of why they define the pig.
And also at one point, we were told that I don't know if you can remember this, Emory, that the Cubans used that actual term in Spanish for the armed forces, or the counter-revolutionary forces. Over here, could you stand, please?
How do you make sure that the history of the Black Panther Party, which was based on such grassroots experiences, how do you make sure that doesn't get locked up in academia and museums?
How do we make sure that the Black Panther Party and its history and legacy don't get locked up in the academy and or in museums, since it was such a grassroots organization?
Well, you have to be able to travel and work with grassroots folks in relationship to sharing that information. But it's all right if it gets in there, because then you're enlightening those who are in those institutions as well. So you don't want to isolate it out of it, you want to be a part of it, but not necessarily exclusive. So that's why I travel. I'm going to Amsterdam in May, and I'm going and talk with people in the community, see what's going on those levels. And that's the way you continue to make sure that you share it and people understand that it's what it's about. It's about grassroots. Yeah.
And as much as we want the academy to go to the community should come to the academy and bring its skills and experiences as well. And it's writing skills, JR. Yes, can you stand?
Why is art and culture important in political struggle?
Why is art and culture important in the political struggle?
Well, because art and culture is everywhere you thousands of times a day, you're bombarded with images, subliminally or otherwise. So you're going to be informed or enlightened, or it might be something that might stick with you. That's what makes it important in that way. The sounds, the visuals, every day, no matter where you go, where you walk, you're going to see something that's visually. So it may stay with you. And it's a way of beginning to deal with the decolonization of the imagination.
And we're to the revolutionary who said we don't want art for art's sake, we want art for
People's sake.